Athalia's Pav. Of course not. I giggled, staring the bitch in the face. You would remember if I met you before, wouldn't you? Ithra's eyes narrowed, and uncertainty filled her look. I guess. Exactly, I said with a smile, noticing her unease. I wondered what she saw, or what she remembered to ask me that question. From my observations, Cole wasn't far from the truth. It seemed like this bitch was getting back her memories. I didn't know if that was a good or bad thing yet. I mean, I only tortured her in the past and later apologized about it. She wouldn't mind. She shouldn't hold grudges. I thought sarcastically. If I was going to place my tent here, I needed to be sure no one could displace me, not even the future Luna. I felt a plan come together, and my smile appeared naturally. Shall we go on with the business of the day? Do you feel tired, Luna? My words were concerning, but my tone was mocking. She noticed it, but covered it up with a stern outlook. Some things never change. We continued training, and although it irked me to pass along my valuable skills to yet another clueless version of Ysera, I did it anyway. Soon enough, I wrapped up the training and Scarlet came to pick her Royal Highness. I didn't miss the hard look she threw or how she blatantly ignored me. There was something up with that one. It was clear she didn't approve of my coming into this pack. Good thing Cole had a better foresight and was firm in his decision. I wondered why she was beta anyway. From my observations, she didn't deserve it. I could easily defeat her in a duel. What standards did Cole use in making his selections? I thought as I headed to his office to give reports on my observations during today's training. Come in, Cole ordered after I knocked on his door. A smile graced my lips as I walked into his office, intentionally swaying my hips as I bit my lower lips. Athalia. He sounded out of breath and his eyes roamed my body. Exactly what I wanted. Can I sit, Alpha? I said in a small tone, and his eyes widened slightly. He never expected me to say that. All along, I've made him believe I was this strong, confident woman who would not take no for an answer. It has worked up to this point, but after much thought and observations, I found that Cole was more drawn to docile and weak women. For some insane reason, he seemed pleased when a woman was just that, a woman without say or power, the perfect submissive. As I looked at him, I decided I was willing to be just that, if it meant I got to be by his side and rule with him until I was trusted enough to be an alpha of my own. If I needed to drop my pride to get in Cole's head, I would do just that. Sit, he breathed, and I could see the approval in his eyes. Slowly, I sat on the chair in front of him, blatantly checking his out and generously flashing my boobs. It's been a while since I got some action, too. If I scored that today, it would be killing two birds with one stone. I was the perfect seductress, and if I played my cards right, I would be the perfect alpha of this pack, too. I came with reports from today's training with the Luna. I started slowly. If you are busy, I could come at a later time to report my findings. Nonsense. I am all ears. He waved his hand. Talk to me. What have you observed? I cleared my throat and leaned forward. If I was flashing him before, my boobs were fully on display now. The first thing I noticed was that the environment we created had some effects on her. Explain. His tone was serious and he paid rapt attention. Before she left for the dark forest 3 years ago, I used to train her in a farmland back at the Bloodhound Pack to separate her from others as the Alpha wanted her training to be in seclusion. You mean Zadok? He corrected and I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. Yes. I continued without missing a beat. When the Luna stepped into the farmland today, I noticed she was alarmed. Her eyes kept looking around the environment, and I half expected her to make a statement regarding it, but she didn't. I decided to step up my game and abandon the original practice plans for the day, and instead replicated a training I once taught her 3 years ago. And a smirk graced my lips. She fell right into my hands. A frustrated sigh left Cole's lips. What do you mean? She asked if we had met before. A cold silence ensued after my words. What did you tell her? He growled. Easy, me boy. I thought, picking offense at his tone but smiling nonetheless. I assured her that there was nothing of the sort. However, she might have her reservations. I said with a faraway look. It's clear that she has been seeing things but has refused to share it with us. My eyes found Cole's. You were right with your suspicions, Alpha. I advise that you mark her quickly. She is yours to keep, after all. I got on my feet, and with a seductive look in my eyes, I found my way to Cole, turning his chair around. Last night, after the dinner, I started, getting on my knees. I figured I didn't thank you enough for taking me in and showing me kindness. A smirk graced his lips. You don't say. I had something in mind, I responded innocently, batting my eyelids. Show me, he said, and that did it. I reached for his belt, palming him through his clothes with my gaze fixed on him. It felt humiliating kneeling before him. At some point he took charge and hurt my throat, leaving me little to no breathing space. But I took it regardless. I took it like the champ I was and the alpha I would become. All in due time. Kala's Pov. 3 knocks on my door and I was wide awake. Who's there? I asked, jolting from my bed. The door opened and Cole entered with a smile. Did I wake you up, my love? I shook my head. Is there something you need? I asked, maintaining a safe distance from him. He must have noticed it as he took a few steps closer to me, close enough that he didn't need to shout from over the room to talk to me. I came to inform you that you would be training with Scar today. He said after a while, I know I said you would be training with Athalia, but there has been a little change in today's plan. I didn't like the sound of that. I had looked forward to meeting her in today's session, digging into her person and, most importantly, finding out why she seemed so familiar and yet hostile to me. All right, I said, holding back the question on the tip of my tongue. Anything else? My eyes widened when I realized what I had just said. How dismissive I had sounded. Cole was not pleased. It was clear from his clenched jaws, but he didn't react. Instead, he responded to my question with a calmness he was not known for. Was it the calm before the storm? After your training, you would be returning here. A dinner is happening tonight and you will be attending by my side. Preparations have been made for you and everything you need will be available at your return. He had an evil glint in his eyes. Have a great time, my love. I'll see you later. With that, Cole left my room and I mentally kicked myself for speaking out of turn. I didn't know what he had planned and I was foolish to add sin to sin after my hostile acts the last time he was here. I didn't have enough time to reflect on my choice of words before Scar entered my room. We'll be leaving early today, she said when she noticed my state of unpreparedness. I'll be outside. As soon as she left, I got into the shower and dressed. A few minutes later, I was ready and we proceeded to the training ground. This time, we were back to the dead field. I couldn't help the twinge of guilt I felt whenever I perceived the deadness in the air, knowing I was the cause. Today, we are going to be practicing something different. Scar started her lecture, and I was all ears. We would be learning restraint, the best way to control our powers even when we are emotionally or mentally unstable. That was interesting. I nodded my head and she continued. If things go well, this might be our shortest lesson yet, but if not, we could go for hours until you have perfected this valuable skill. That sounded daunting, but with my experience with learning from Scar, I knew there were 2 options, to get it done or die trying, and I naturally leaned towards the first. The day's training was short. Thankfully, I mastered the skills of restraint, trying to cage my powers against situations I perceived to be deadly. She even went as far as forming visions that triggered me to use my powers instinctively. After many failures, I succeeded and never looked back since then. Good work, Scar said as we wrapped up the day's practice. I smiled, genuinely proud of myself. I have the best teacher, I replied humbly. You flatter me, she said with an equal smile. It was all you. We walked away from the field and headed towards my chambers in a light mood. I decided to try my luck on something pricking my mind. Scarlet, is there a problem, Luna? She asked, looking straight ahead. I need to ask you something. I slowed to a stop and looked at her. Scarlet stopped in her tracks too. What is it this time? It's about your memories, I said after a while. Her face froze. I could tell it was dangerous territory, but at this point, I could die of curiosity. Luna, please, I just need to know something. It's nothing too big, I persuaded her. Just listen to the question and decide if you will answer it. It took a while, but she agreed. Thank you, I started. You once told me that you had a glimpse of your past and what you saw made you choose to forget who you were. She gave an affirmative nod and I swallowed. Don't you think there might be more to you than the bad memories you saw? Have you considered the possibility that there might be good memories and people lost in the darkness of your mind, which you have decided to forget for one bad memory? Don't you feel, short knowing you could know more about yourself, but you chose to give that up? That is a lot of questions, Scarlet pointed out and turned to me. I understand that you must be curious and unable to comprehend the reasons for my actions, but that is the life I chose. She resumed walking, and I followed beside her. I have considered all those things, but I'm afraid I am not as optimistic as you are, Luna. What if I dig out those memories and reverse ID the case? What if I learn something that will forever alter my life course? What if I can't handle it? Her questions threw me aback. At that moment, I realized something. There would always be what-ifs, but it took a certain amount of courage to step into the dark and truly find out. I don't have that courage. I cannot risk what I have now for the unknown, Kella, she said and stopped. I realized we were in front of my door. I will leave you to your business, she said, and with a bow walked away from me, leaving me to my thoughts. Did I want to find out who I am? Can I handle the responsibility of knowing the truth? Was I better off this way? I stepped into my room and I was reminded of Cole. Living without my memories was like living with Cole for the rest of my life, a risk I couldn't take. It was hell. Kalla's Pove. I was dressed in a black studded gown and paraded into the dinner hall by Cole. Contrary to my belief, the room wasn't packed with pack members. Instead, there was a giant table, big enough to feed 30 people in the center of the room. As we approached the dinner, I realized we were not alone. Athaliah and Scarlet stood on their feet, waiting for us. As soon as we got to the table, Cole dragged a seat by his right and the ladies bowed their heads in greeting. "Have your seats," he ordered, and we all sat down to eat. I could feel the hard gaze of Athaliah on my form and wondered if this was some sort of setup. I suddenly didn't feel like eating. "Welcome, Luna," she said, and I raised my eyes to meet hers. "I'm sorry I was unable to train with you today." Her eyes swapped to Cole, whose eyes were already on hers. "I was a bit busy." Scar cleared her throat, and the atmosphere was riddled with tension. I felt like there was an inside joke I wasn't privy to happening at this table. "It's all right. I trained with Scarlet today," I said and dug back into my food. "I presume today's training was successful?" That was Cole. Scarlet nodded. "The Luna did amazing as usual," she remarked, and a blush stained my cheeks. "Good. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Any hindrance or setback?" Cole asked, and my eyes found him in confusion. It felt like he was waiting for something. Did he expect me to fail? What was this about? "No, Alpha," Scarlet affirmed. "Everything went beautifully." Cole maintained silence for a while, before he nodded, speaking no more on the matter. We ate in silence until Athaliah spoke. "From my training with the Luna, it seemed like she had prior training," she said, and I was shocked. "Is that so?" Cole asked. His eyes darted to me. "Such strength in her hands." Athaliah tutted. "For a beginner, that is impressive." I didn't know if she was complimenting or accusing me of something. Maybe she had learned something of the sort and forgot about it when she lost her memories. My breath seized at her words, as well as everyone on the table. Athaliah, however, seemed nonchalant. She smiled like she was speaking about the weather and not my predicament, which I was stunned she knew. "Athaliah," Cole growled, and the table shook at the power. "What exactly are you talking about?" "I am so sorry." She held her mouth. "I was just thinking out loud. I didn't realize it was a taboo topic." Her eyes found mine, and I could see amusement dancing in her eyes. "My sincerest apologies, Luna." Something was up. It was clear as day. What was she trying to get from me? "It's all right," I said, hoping it sounded as genuine as I intended. "It's not news that I lost my memories 3 years ago. Now that you speak of it, I wonder if I had engaged in such before losing my memories." "Kalla, you don't need to bother yourself with useless thoughts," Cole said almost immediately. "Rest assured that anything you have learned can be relearned. Don't stress trying to remember." "I agree." Athaliah seconded, and I almost rolled my eyes at their words. "Of course," Scarlet said snidely, taking a big gulp of water. I nodded my head. "Can this dinner be over already? I must say that I'm a bit jealous of you. Athaliah said with her eyes laced on scarlet. I've heard the job you do, helping people to control their witch side. My eyes perked at her words. It's just a job. Scarlet's tone was dry and bored. Athaliah gazed adoringly at Cole. It's a beauty to see how receptive you are to everyone. In my former pack, they will kill anyone that is not a werewolf. She scoffed. Even the ones that dedicated their lives to their service, Zadok killed without mercy. It's not everyone that has such foresight, Cole said, and I could tell he felt flattered. How easy it was to brush his feathers. You are right, Alpha. There was a lady who served as the only non-werewolf in the pack. Athaliah squinted her brows. What was her name again? Shilhi? The entire room was quiet. You could hear a pin drop. My hands froze midway, and I dropped my fork, finding Athaliah with a look of confusion. Did you just say, Shilhi? I muttered, my heartbeat increasing with her delayed response. What are you trying to do? Came the tense voice of Cole. Athaliah shrugged. Just forget it. She is not important. No. I suddenly raised my voice. Shilhi, tell me about her. Where is she? At this point, I was desperate. Finally, someone who knew about the strange woman in my dreams. Athaliah seemed stuck. Her gaze flickered between mine and Cole's. I'm sorry, I can't. Don't be sorry. Pray tell, who is Shilhi? Cole said to my surprise, and I was glad he did. I'm quite interested in her story. I didn't need to say anything else. Athaliah sat up and began her story. Shilhi used to be a member of the Bloodhound Pack and placed in high esteem by Zadok. She was an herbalist who got possessed by a dark spirit and eventually died in the dark forest. She said, and my eyes nearly fell off their sockets. The dark forest, I asked, and my dream flashed before my eyes. Yes, Luna. Athaliah settled on her chair. The dark forest. Everyone has a lot of theories on how she died, but I believe she exploded to 1,000,000 pieces. Horror took over me. She was dead. Shilhi was dead. I was seeing a dead woman. Is something the matter? Athaliah said, catching my attention. You look pale, Luna. I swallowed hard. I am fine. Thank you, I answered, and our eyes connected. Her eyes were smiling, like she knew my inner turmoil. Was I seeing things? That's all about Shilhi, she said, clasping her hands. I feel famished. I shook in my seat and images poured into my head. A woman explodes in the night, a scream, and lastly, a picture of Athaliah, torturing me. Overcome with fear, I pushed back and fell off my seat. A headache hit me and I winced, closing my eyes in pain. Kala! Cole rushed to me, helping me up. Are you all right? He asked, but I couldn't speak. I was too shocked to speak. What did you see? He asked, and I shook my head. Just a headache, I muttered, placing my guard up. I'll be fine. That won't do, he said and turned around. Scar, take the Luna to her quarters and summon the doctor. Yes, Alpha. Scar took me from his hand and led us out of the dinner. Athaliah's Paviv. You must be out of your mind. Cole gripped me by the throat once they were out of sight. Alpha. I breathed, fighting the urge to punch him in the face with a smile on my face. How dare you mention that name? He roared. Is this it? Was this your plan all along? To get her to recover her memories? Did you think I wouldn't find out? Listen to me. I got out of his hold, coughing hard. I might be stupid, but not that stupid. Believe it or not, I knew what I was doing. I took a deep breath, and my tone became sifter. Everything I did was for your best interest. Cole let out a deranged laugh, and I thought I might have taken my experiment too far. What were the odds of me leaving here with my life? It would depend on how this went. Tell me, Gamma. He cooed, and goosebumps filled my arm. Make it make sense, or you might end up like the herbalist you were yapping about. He scrunched his face. What's it again? Shilhi? I swallowed and placed my best foot forward. I know it looks bad, but I promise there is an explanation for this. I began. It's clear that the Luna has been keeping something from us. We don't know to which extent she has regained her memories, and the last thing we need is to be taken off guard. Doesn't explain why you had to reveal the identity of Shilhi to her. Cole roared, advancing towards me. If you were on my side, I'd expect you'd keep your mouth shut on anything that could trigger her memory. That's the point, I bellowed. If you are always running away from the subject matter, she would remain curious. If we are to find out what she's keeping from us, we have to earn her trust and take the bull by the horns. Sometimes, hiding our cards can be a recipe for losing the game. If we are to know what is going on with her, the best approach is to win her trust, and that can only come by risking telling her certain information. Cole scoffed, but I could tell I was getting to him. Think of it this way. It's give and take. If you want her to trust you, or any of us enough to tell us how she is truly faring, then you need to be able to tell her things that she is desperate to know. Not everything, but enough to keep her satiated and secure. Cole stood a few inches from me, and his breath was heavy. And if it doesn't work, what if she doesn't fall into our hands after everything? Would you take responsibility if she decides to go? He asked, but his gaze roamed my body. If it doesn't work, she can't blame us for the actions we'll take. I smirked. I believe you can take what belongs to you, whether she likes it or not. That did it. A purr of approval left his mouth, and he pushed me against the dinner table. Why do I hate that you are right? He grumbled into my ears. I bit my lip. You can punish me if you so desire. I looked up at his unwavering eyes, and with a small voice, I said, I can take it. A hungry growl left Cole's throat, and the next thing I heard was the tear of my thigh-slit gown. Oops, he said, but he was not sorry. I placed my arms on the dinner table, supporting my weight and feeling risque at the thought of doing it so publicly. Anyone could walk in and catch us. The danger of it made my center pool with wetness. If only he were an alpha, I'd made out of him. That's why I needed to be an alpha. If I could get a pack as the alpha, I could easily convince him to join me as my mate. It'd be a win-win. A guttural growl from Cole told me he was at the edge. I took over with a smirk, riding him silly to the finish line. Is it wrong that I wish you were Calla? Cole said, and my smile faded. Was he thinking of her all these while? I forced on a smile and sat on the table with my torn dress. If you want her that badly, why don't you mark her? I suggested, having nothing else to say. Cole chuckled. You just want Zadok to yourself, he said in an accusing tone. For the first time, I realized it's been a while since I thought about Zadok or being his Luna. These days, my fantasies included Azrael, and all I wanted was the power of being a pack leader, a role destined for me, had some witches not wiped out my father's pack. I let my finger wander through his body. What if I told you I want you both? I said, biting my lips and gauging him with innocent eyes. Be careful what you wish for, Cole warned, and I felt chills down my spine. I know exactly what I want, I said, and with a boldness caged him between my thighs. It felt so good as I slowly worked my way through a second round, shamelessly letting my moans fill the air. Unknown to them, the door slightly opened and teary eyes watched them go at it till they couldn't anymore. Calla's pof. I hadn't stepped outside my soon since dinner the last time. I was placed on bed rest by the pack doctor, who came in intervals to check on how I was faring, only to receive the same answer, time and time again. Why couldn't they understand that I was doing fine? The only thing that plagued my mind was my latest discovery, and my need to know more about the one woman who hadn't stopped plaguing my mind since the first time she appeared in my dream. Alongside why my mind couldn't stop conjuring up images of Athaliah, torturing me in a place I couldn't recognize. Shilhi the herbalist. I had decided to refer to her in that manner ever since dinner when Athaliah told me of her story. The thought of me seeing a dead, betraying herbalist didn't sit well with me, but I held on for the day I had an opportunity to see Athaliah again, which I hoped wouldn't be far from now. A knock on the door disrupted my thoughts. Who's there? I asked, gingerly getting up from my bed, hoping it wasn't another medical checkup. Scarlet, she answered, and I felt life enter me. Before I could open the door, she stepped into my room, looking rough and carrying a dark cloud around her. What's wrong? I asked, filled with concern, but she countered me with another question. How are you doing? I nodded my head. I'm all right. Why do you look so down? Are you sick? I asked again, unsure if it was okay to hold her hand. She seemed like she was suffering. There were dark shadows under her eyes, and she looked paler than usual. Has Cole seen you? I threw again when she didn't answer. I am fine, she snapped, and I was shocked at the anger behind her words. Just get dressed and let's get out of here, she said in a less snappy tone. We have a long day ahead of us. I gauged her for a while and decided it was best to swallow and do as I was told. The last thing I needed was another reason to put her in a terrible mood. I figured she would come around soon. Without another word, I found my way to the closet and prepared for the outing with Scar. I hoped with all my heart that it didn't involve hanging with Cole, because I didn't have the mental capacity to face him yet. I knew he would be curious about what was wrong with me and what I was seeing, but I didn't feel like disclosing it to anyone, much less him. "Where are we going?" I asked when we got out of my chambers. "You'll see," Scar said and led the way with me, falling a step behind her. I looked through the hallway windows and saw that the pack was more beautiful than usual. It reeked of festivities, and the last time such decorations were made was at the annual mating ceremony. I knew there was no such thing, so why were they decorating the entire place? As we passed the pack members, I was greeted with a bow of the head and a mutter of my Luna title. It seemed like I was more visible than usual, and every eye looked at me with reverence, love, and to my surprise, jealousy. Scarlet was a dark tower, scaring children with the frown that marred her face. What was it with her? I wondered as we journeyed together. Soon enough, we got to a building that reeked of coal. Scarlet answered my silent questions. "Welcome to the Alpha's chambers." She led us through the double doors while I felt a bile in my throat. Why did she bring me here? I knew Cole had his building, but never bothered to know where it was, seeing he was always at my end. "Tonight is the Alpha's birthday," she continued, and my eyebrows shot up in surprise. "There would be an occasion to celebrate tonight, and you are attending as his bride." I nodded my head, sensory overload. "The Alpha has prepared a team to ready you for the event. He shall be joining you here at a later time." "Why don't I get dressed at my chambers? It was more convenient," I said, unable to shake off the feeling of danger and unrest. "The Alpha requested that you do it here," she answered, and I heard footsteps walk down the stairs. "Athalia," Scar said in an unfriendly tone. "Was that a hiss I heard?" "Luna," Athalia said with a smile. "How are you doing?" she asked. Her eyes wandered around my form. "Fine," I said. Seeing her reminded me of the memories of her torturing me. I got a bad feeling about her, like there was something more to her, something she knew, and I was in the dark. "This is the Alpha's quarters," Scar suddenly said, breathing fury. "You have no right to be here." Athalia adjusted her collar and a ghastly bruise on her neck took the limelight. "Was that a hickey?" "The Alpha sent for me," she said, walking down with a tilt to her steps. "I heard the Luna would be dressing here, so I thought to prepare the room for her." She added snidely, and I could feel the malice in the air. If I didn't know better, I'd think was something up between both women. I didn't have the opportunity to investigate further because Cole came down his stairs, bare-chested with his pants hanging dangerously low on his waist. "What's the ruckus about?" he asked. When his eyes found me, it curved in delight, and he breezed down the stairs. "Calla," he breathed, taking my hand in his. "Are you all right?" Everyone asked me that question lately. It was getting tiring to answer. I nodded, and he urged me up the stairs. "Tonight I'm going to make you my Luna," he said as we climbed up. I prayed for both our sakes it wasn't what I thought it was. "Happy birthday, Alpha," I muttered, glancing back at the women downstairs. "Happy birthday, Alpha," Athalia said from the ground. "I hope you enjoyed your gift." My brows scrunched in confusion. Gift? I didn't have a gift for him. My thoughts were shut off by a growl that belonged to Scar. What was it with that woman today? Cole's povee. The night was coming in hot. I looked at my mate dressed in a flawless blue crystal dress. The dress shimmered in the dark as the droopy diamonds gave the illusion of stars falling from the sky. Everything was perfect. My Calla was the perfect bride. Tonight, I would declare her the Luna, and she would bear my mark. The workers exited the room, leaving me with a perfectly dressed Calla in my chambers. This was going to be our shared home after tonight. She just didn't know it yet. So far, she had been in the best character. I didn't know if it was because it was my birthday or she'd turned a new leaf. I hoped it was the latter, because the last thing I wanted was to make her into the Luna I knew and deserved. "You look so beautiful, my Calla," I whispered into my ears. "Thank you," she said, and bowed her head, revealing the beautiful crown made out of braid. Tonight, I let them stretch her hair. It seemed like my Calla preferred her hair longer, and I thought it'd be good to have her hair in the way she chose tonight. She might as well take it as our wedding night. Afterwards, I would own her completely and make her the woman she was destined to be. I opened my mouth to speak when a voice rang in my head. "Alpha, we have a problem," came the voice of one of my trusted guards. I scrunched my nose in confusion. "What is the matter?" I asked, finding my way to the home office in my bedroom. I didn't miss the slump of her shoulders when I backed away from her. Was she hurt by my retreat or relieved? I wondered as I waited for a response. I hoped it was the former, because it would suck if she were already tired of me when we had forever to go. It was darn too early, if you ask me. "They are here," a panicked voice said in my head, and I felt irritated. "The alpha of the bloodhound pack is here." My eyes shot up at the information received. What in the world? I hastily left my office, and Calla gauged me with confusion. I approached her and dropped a kiss on her forehead. "Someone will come and get you. I need to leave first," I said, and without waiting for a response, I left my abode, sending instructions to Scarlet on my mate while I headed to the borders. Thanks to my wolf, I was before Zadok in minutes, and I wasn't pleased. "Alpha Zadok," I said, stepping forward. "What an unpleasant surprise," he smirked. He had the nerve to smirk at me. "Alpha Cole." If I didn't know better, I'd think he was excited to see me. "I heard it was your birthday and you were throwing a party. I couldn't miss it for the world." Sarcasm dripped from his tone. "I even brought gifts." Zadok snapped his fingers and some wolves came forward, placing gifts on the floor. I couldn't believe my eyes. He came prepared. "Oh, thank you," I said with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "However, I don't recall inviting you to this occasion." I started, not to be a bad sport, but you see, this event is strictly by invitation, and although I appreciate your gesture, you can't attend. Zadok laughed, and I fought the urge to punch him in the face. "Oh, come on, Cole. One would think you are hiding something from me. Everyone else got an invite to the party. I didn't mind, and shamelessly appeared here, and you want to throw me out too?" he inquired, and I felt my jaws tightened. "It's just a party. There's nothing big about it. I'd think you would be busy with pack matters. You needn't waste your time in frivolous activities like this." "Let me be the judge of that. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, after all," Zadok said with his head tilted. For a second, I contemplated opening a battle with them and chopping his head off. But on second thought, I decided to let him in. What could go wrong? Everything was going wrong. Zadok and his entourage entered the venue, commanding attention. I'd received word that Scarlet was on her way with Calla. The last thing I needed was a repeat of the last time. Hell, I didn't even want him anywhere close to my Calla, especially at a time like this. I was going to have to suck it up and make this as short as possible. Heads turned, and I looked in the direction of the door. There she was, my Calla, shining brightly like she was meant to be. I scrunched my nose when I realized what was missing. I wasn't by her side. I needed to be by her side, to stake my claim on her. I got up and made my way through to her with a smile on my face. With adoring eyes on us, I gave her my hand, and she took it without hesitation. A smirk plastered on my face as I led her to my table, not too far from Zadok's. You know the saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I ate up the attention that came with having Calla by my side. All eyes were on us, including Zadok, who looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. Maybe it wasn't a bad idea having him over. It would be great to have him witness my union with her tonight. You guessed it. She was going to bear my mark right in their presence. My wolf purred in delight. Hopefully, the third time's the charm. Happy birthday, Alpha. The people chorused, and I raised my glass. It was indeed a beautiful day. Scar sat beside Calla, whose eyes couldn't leave Zadok's table. I wavered at the thought of her getting her memories back with their appearance. I dragged Scar to my side and ordered, "Get the stage ready. I need to mark her in 5 minutes." I said, and she nodded, relaying my orders to the people in charge. I thought it was over until I saw Athaliah, dressed like a slut and making her way into the hall. "Stop her!" I ordered the guards via mind link, and she was taken out of sight. "I'll be back in a few, my love," I said to Calla as I got on my feet. Then to Scarlet, I ordered, "She never leaves your sight." With a hurried pace, I made my way out of the hall, looking for Athaliah. As I threaded the halls, a door suddenly opened, and I was dragged in. My first instinct was to twist their neck, but when I felt the familiar soft hands of Athaliah groping me, I relented. "Are you crazy?" I whispered angrily. "I told you not to attend today's meeting." "I never agreed not to come," she cooed. "He seems excited to see me." I held her hands from touching me further. "This is not the time and place," I said with gritted teeth. "Didn't take you as one who played by the rules, Alpha." She bit her lips. "I'll be quick. It's your big day after all." She got to her knees, batting her eyes. "You deserve it." My eyes fluttered close, and I let her do what she knew best. She was my slut after all, Kala's Povi. I could feel his gaze heavy on me, Alpha Zadok's gaze. It was hard not to notice when his gaze burned like fire. I had forgotten how intense it was to be around him, how he managed to command my attention without trying. Today was going to be different, though, because I choose not to indulge in that today. It was Cole's birthday. The last thing I needed was a reason to make him angry at me. Besides, I felt paranoid and couldn't shake off the feeling of foreboding that came with this event. It felt like something bad would happen. I didn't know why I was feeling such bad premonition, but I couldn't shake it off. There were a lot of hushed rumors about today being a big night for Cole, and I couldn't help but wonder why this birthday took the crown from my 3 years of being in this pack. What made it so special, and what part did I have to play in it? On my way here, I tried to get Scar to talk to me about what was happening tonight, but she didn't give me anything to work with. It felt like everyone else knew something that I didn't. They were celebrating something I wasn't privy to, and I had a feeling it wasn't going to be a pleasant surprise. I gulped down my glass of alcohol, and Scar took it away from me with a reprimanding gaze. I wasn't even allowed to drink away my anxiety. Feeling fed up, I got up. "Where are you going?" Scar asked from my side, managing to keep her voice low and even. "I need to use the restroom." I shook my head when she wanted to follow me. "I'll be back in a jiffy. I don't need you breathing down my neck. The guards are enough as is." I didn't know when I snapped. I was feeling the pressure. "I won't be long," I added, and she nodded respectfully. I felt a twinge of guilt for talking to her in such a manner, but I kept walking, feeling a gaze burning through my back. I needed a breathing space before Cole returned from wherever he was gone. I stepped into the restroom and eased myself. After finishing my business, I went to the mirror and let out a deep breath, looking at my reflection. I looked perfect. Hair done, makeup, clothes, everything was in the right place. And yet I felt like a part of me was missing. I felt like this was only a tiny part of me, and I was so much more than the lady looking back at me. But how do I find her? The door of the restroom opened, and my head turned in the direction. The first thing I saw was a man, and my first instinct was to say, "Occupied." My words trailed when the intruder closed the door, locked it behind him, and looked at me. My breath hitched. It was him, Alpha Zadok. I looked at him, unable to speak. My first instinct led me to run back into my stall and attempt to lock the door, but his leg wedged it. He easily pushed the door open and stepped inside the stall with me, locking us in together. I couldn't look at him. I couldn't bear to look at his face. He placed his hand on my jaw and pushed my head forward, forcing me to look into his eyes. The spot his hand connected shot sparks through my body, so much that I felt paralyzed before him. His eyes looked tormented. The pain was so evident that I wanted to reach out and console him. I wanted to kiss his pain away and put an end to all his worries. Everything in me screamed to touch him, to make him happy, to do something, but I stood immobile, breathing heavily with slightly opened lips. Ysera. He sounded tormented, and I shook my head in confusion. Why did he always call me that? My mind pulls up a result, and I remember Cole saying something along the lines of him losing someone that looked like me. The thought of him thinking about someone else when his mere presence rid me of my sense of reasoning made my blood boil. How dare he think of another woman when my entire being burned for me? My face marred with a frown, and I took his hands off my jaws. "I am not Ysera," I snapped, giving him a dirty look. "Are you stalking me?" Zadok seemed surprised. He blinked like he was coming out of a reverie, and I wondered if he thought I was her all this while. If he had chased me right to the restrooms for another woman who shared a resemblance to me. My fury burned as time proceeded with no words from him. He didn't even try to justify himself. I was right. This was another act of his deluded mind. I'll say this once, so listen to me carefully. I started in a hard tone. I am not your mate. You've got the wrong person. Enough of these games, and let this be the last time you appear in front of me or even touch me that hand of yours. I took a deep breath with glaring eyes. If you'll excuse me, I have somewhere to be. With that, I opened the stall and walked out. As I headed towards the door of the restroom, I couldn't help the thought of how great it would feel if this alpha got out of his befuddled mind, dragged me back, and fucking had a conversation with me. All hopes went down the drain when I closed the door behind me, and there was still no word from him. I was stupid to expect anything less. My walk back to the hall was slow. The thought of returning to Cole's side daunted me, but I had no choice. I made to go downstairs when I heard a familiar voice. You should be ashamed of yourself. Scar roared, and I turned around to find where it was coming from. Scar, I told you not to let Calla out of your eyes, came the breathy voice of Cole. A sadistic laugh escapes the mouth of Scar. What? So she doesn't find out that you're fucking this bitch? Mind your words, Scarlet, Cole gritted. What? Little beta having feelings for my alpha? Athalia smirked, half-dressed and proud. Calla, Cole said when he saw me, eyes wide, it's not what you think. I stood in front of them, waiting for the pain that should come at seeing my supposed mate with another, but nothing came. It's exactly what she thinks. I can't believe you are so dumb to fall into the hands of this wench, Scar spoke, exasperated. You barely even know her. And yet I've seen every part of him. Athalia taunted, and Cole shot her a reprimanding look. Scar, take Calla away. I'll explain to her later, Cole said, and that took Scarlet over the edge. I should take Calla away? You would explain to her? She chuckled. You should be explaining to me. Scarlet, Cole yelled, using his alpha tone. I said take her away. Now, that did it. Scar looked like a deranged woman as her eyes flickered between the fornicators. Not this time. I've had enough. For 12 years, I've been with you, doing everything for you, even gave myself to you, but the moment Calla comes, she's qualified to be your Luna? Scarlet, I'm not done. I accepted, seeing she wasn't interested in you, and I figured she would get back her memories and leave at some point. But no, you had to fall cheaply for this slut's tactics, and once again, betrayed my trust and love for you. I moved backwards as Scarlet spoke. She was breathing heavily, and smoke came out of her body holes. Something was wrong. Scar, calm down, Cole said. He moved into the room, wary of her. I should calm down? That only seemed to anger her the more. I'll show you the monster you've made me to be. Within 1 second, Scar jumped into the air and midway transformed into a big red dragon, spewing fire in her wake. The building shook and the pillars broke. Stones fell like rain while I shifted to a corner, breathing heavily and jittering. Dragon. She's a dragon. Scar is a dragon. My head suddenly felt like it wanted to explode. Memories flooded in like an ocean, everything forcing its way into my head. Memories of the Celts clan, my journey to the dark forest, and lastly, Zadok. We just slayed a dragon or more. I heard his voice and a large boulder hit me in the head. I lost consciousness. Zadok's Poviv. I am not Ysera. Are you stalking me? I'll say this once, so listen to me carefully. I am not your mate. You've got the wrong person. Enough of these games, and let this be the last time you appear in front of me, or even touch me that hand of yours. If you'll excuse me, I have somewhere to be. Her words played in my head in an endless loop. I returned to the party with a cold look and didn't bother to sit down. Let's go, I ordered and began my walk out of the darned place. Coming here was a mistake. What did I expect? That she'll run into my arms like the mate I lost 3 years ago? I needed to leave. I walked out of the party knowing all eyes were on me. The last thing I wanted was to give Cole another thing to gloat about. In fact, he already had something to gloat about. Zadok, what's going on? That was Azrael. I would have given him shit for saying my name without an ounce of respect if I wasn't so upset. But I didn't have the strength. I had nothing. I was nothing. I needed to go. I didn't give him an answer. What was I supposed to say to him? How do I explain the pain in my heart? The rude awakening I'd faced. I entered the car and we drove back to the pack in silence. Asriel started as soon as the office closed behind me. What happened? How did it go? Why would you leave like that? There are many questions, but not enough answers. Did you meet her? We didn't even get to see. She's dead. I cut him off. We would not be pursuing the thought of Cole's mate being Ysera because Ysera is dead. Saying it out loud hurt. The truth hurt. But it must be spoken, heard, and accepted. No. Asriel started, but I stopped him. Don't. I don't want to hear it. I got up. I don't want to hear any more of your theories or feelings about the darned woman. I looked him in the eyes. She might look like her, speak like her, hell, even walk like her, but I assure you she is not her. She isn't Ysera. It's high time we accepted it and moved forward. It's high time I accepted it and moved forward, I said, taking my seat. Asriel seemed distraught. Zadok, I want to be alone, Asriel, I said without looking at his face. I need to be alone. Asriel stood for a while, contemplating his obedience, but finally submitted. I'll be outside if you need me, he said and stepped out of the office. True to his words, he remained outside, standing guard as I mourned the loss of someone I never had. Don't be stupid, human, Kier's voice reasoned, and I rolled my eyes at his stellar punchline. I don't need that shit, I said. I need time to think. Think about what? He questioned, and I let out a frustrated sigh. Now is not the time, Kier. I gritted, hoping he would get the memo and give up bothering me, but no such luck. Oh, really? He says. When's the time, then? When we've lost touch with our mate, or when she's been claimed by another? Don't be stupid, human. You know what? I stood. You are the stupid one. You can't seem to let go of a mate you lost in the dark forest. You refused to give her up and allowed the pack to suffer for your selfish desires. Would you continue this madness even after she had so clearly told you she wasn't our mate? I asked, breathing fire. I understand your pain, Zadok. It was the first time he called me by my name. It's our pain. I shook my head. No, it's not. We are over this. We've moved on. We just need to continue on the right path. Ysera is gone, and unless the moon goddess gives us another mate, we will have to choose someone to fill the gap. I concluded. I'm over this shit. We both know that's a lie, Kier said, and I hated that he was right. As long as she is alive, we can never be over her. So quit trying to spiral and rationally think about why our mate is so hostile towards you. Hostile towards me? I scoffed, unable to believe the wolf. Ysera is dead. Kala is hostile because we have been nothing but stalkers who can't get over the idea of her being our mate. Go to Asriel. Listen to what he has to say. You can't make any decision in this state. I felt like the world was out for me. Ysera is dead. Do I have to yell it to the world before you understand there is nothing else to do but move forward? Stop saying that rubbish, human. I was losing my senses. Didn't you feel the bond? It came alive the moment you touched her. I felt it too. But suddenly, she got angry. You must have done something wrong that made her walk away from us. I shook my head, refusing to listen to any more of his bullshit. I needed my peace, and Kier wasn't giving me that. I dug into my drawers, looking for the potions I'd stashed there 3 years ago. I hoped for my sake that they were still as effective as I knew them to be. I found the potions, Shilly's potions, and I took one out of the stash. This should do for tonight. Don't do that! I heard Kier roar at me, but it was too late. I gulped down the poisonous content of the potion, and my mind was silenced. Hating the silence, I took more of the potions, drinking everything till I was out of the supply of poison. The silence plagued me. I was all alone. I felt my heart prick in pain and my eyes watered. I needed to stop being selfish and truly let her go. I had lost my mate, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. I let myself mourn her one last time, crying myself to sleep. It would mark the beginning of a new season by the time I woke up. Ithra's Pove. My eyes fluttered open, and the first thing I see is a man hunched over me. Kala, my goodness, thank God you are awake, the man said while my vision blurred. How do you feel? A headache rammed my forehead. What in the world? I said, sitting on my bed. An arm covered me. Thank God you are alive. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I promise you will never experience such again. Scarlet has been put away in the dungeons, never to disturb our lives again. Scarlet? I asked, and suddenly my thoughts cleared. I looked at Cole and felt a sudden urge to get away from his embrace. Are you all right, my love? he asked when I suddenly left his hold with a disgruntled face. Zadok. I remembered how harshly I spoke to him and my heart split in halves. I needed to get to him. Athaliah walked in with a pretentious look of concern. Luna, how are you doing? I couldn't believe it. She was one hell of a betrayer. I saw through her acts, and my eyes boiled in rage. Is she okay? She asked, noticing my gaze and flickering between me and Cole. Her eyes widened when I said, Enough of your games, Athaliah Hezron. She knew I had caught on to her. A smile appeared after a moment. I see you have regained your memories, she said with a smirk. Took you long enough. She shrugged, just when I was having a great time playing pretend. Cole's eyes widened. What are you talking about? He asked, looking clueless. Exactly what you heard, I answered in her stead. I have to go home, I said, needing to see him. Zadok. Kala. He trailed a finger on my face. What are you saying? This is your home. His eyes were searching, hoping, waiting for me to believe. I slashed his hopes to pieces. My name is Ysera, and this is not my home. I need to go. Shut up, Cole bellowed, sounding deranged. You are confused, he looked at Athaliah. Call the doctors. She has a concussion. Something is wrong. I need them to fix her. Now. Alpha. Athaliah started, but he didn't let her speak. I said, get the doctors. My mate needs help. I am not your mate, I growled, and he turned furious. You are my mate. He held me painfully by the arm. You are mine, and this is your pack. You can never be my mate, I said in his face. Let me go. Cole shook his head and suddenly started laughing. You are my mate, he said between laughs. Do not force my hand. His tone was threatening, but I didn't care. Let me go, Cole. Never. He turned to Athaliah, with his hand fast around me. Lock her up and watch over her. By tomorrow she will be marked and made Luna. Leave me alone, I growled, struggling to be free from his hold to no avail. Guards, Athaliah said with a smirk, and some werewolves rushed into the room. Escort our Luna to her holding room. I gasped as I was taken out of Cole's hands by a pair of two strong ones and led out of the room, screaming my head off. I refused to eat anything. I'd die before I got marked by that good-for-nothing beast. My defiance must have reached their ears because Athaliah stepped into my room, or should I say, holding cell. Luna, she said in a mocking tone, and I shot daggers at her. How could you do this to Zadok? Did he know you are here? How could you betray him in such a manner? I asked, unable to wrap my head around her motive for such betrayal. Betray Zadok? She scoffed. More like he betrayed me. An evil smile graced her lips. I haven't even paid half the evil he did to me. He spared your life, I reminded her icily. He could have killed you for what you did to me, but he spared your life. Her face turned sore. No, darling, he didn't spare my life. He sent me off to be killed, and he was just lucky I was strong enough to defend myself and come back alive. Her eyes burned with rage. I owe him nothing. I couldn't believe she thought that. And what about me? I asked, and her eyes raised. I spared your life. I could have ordered your head and you wouldn't be alive. Is this how you pay back my kindness? Athaliah laughed, not the fake one, a full-blown laugh. That has got to be the sickest joke I've heard in a while. She stated, and her face lost its laughter. If I had my way, you'd be dead. Take your life as a gift. The venom and hatred in her voice startled me. What did I ever do to you? I didn't know when I said the thoughts that plagued my mind. Why are you doing this? She stepped closer to me with a deathly gaze as she spoke. What did you do to me? She smirked. Your existence in itself is the bane of my existence. Athaliah walked around me like a predator, circling its prey. The moment you appeared in front of Zadok, you destroyed everything I have labored for. You took away Zadok, possessed what was not yours, and even after you died, held him as your loyal captive. Did you ask what you did to me? You made him banish me. You refused to die and save us all the agony of watching him mourn the loss of something that wasn't his. She scoffed. And the worst of it all, you ended up making it out alive, and just when he was getting over your witchcraft, you appeared in front of him and brought him back to square one. You cause pain and havoc anywhere you go. You have been a thorn in my life, dead and alive. You just can't stay away. I opened my mouth to speak, to defend myself, but no words came out. That's right, you ought to be quiet. You ought to be grateful for the life you have and silently accept what's in front of you. Forget Zadok and embrace your new identity, Kala. I shook my head, breathing heavily. No. I'll leave you to your thoughts. You will be dressed and called for the occasion in a little while. Goodbye, Luna. Ithra's Pove. I was dressed in a mini black ball gown and waiting to be dragged to the altar, because that was the only way I'd step my foot out of this prison. I heard the sound of the door click, and I turned around to meet the face of the one who ruined my life, or was about to ruin my life. How dare you appear before me? The words were out of my mouth before I could stop myself. Kala, he called softly, closing the door behind him, and headed for me. Are you still being difficult? Difficult? He thought I was being difficult? The hell? Let me go, I demanded with fiery eyes. I do not belong here. A wave of rage passed through his eyes, but he blinked it off. Are you ready to be mine, body, mind, and soul? He asked, tracing my face with his filthy hands. I fought the urge to spit in his face as I answered, over my dead body. That did it. My head swung back at the force of his slap, and he dragged me to him, holding me tightly against him. You will be my Luna and serve me because it is your destiny. He gritted, you should learn to live with that. I shook my head in defiance, and he placed a dirty kiss on my cheek, suddenly changing from the monster I knew him to be. You'll be all right, love. I'll worship the feet you walk on. You just have to give yourself to me. He didn't wait for a response. Without another word, he dragged me out of the room, headed to God knows where. You'll be fine, my Kala. You'll be fine. He muttered, dragging me while I trashed my way to the altar. The atmosphere was calm and everyone's gaze was on me. My hands were tied to my back as I was led to the altar by two hefty men who dragged me with ease. I saw Cole standing on the portal with a smile while I struggled to be free. I saw Athaliah too. Her gaze told me that she enjoyed my predicament, and it took everything in me not to wipe that smirk off her face in the most painful way. Soon enough, I was in front of Cole, forced to my knees as a slave in front of her master. I felt humiliated, dirty, and ripped apart. Cole was brimming with joy. His eyes glowed as the guards bared my neck to him, presenting me like a sacrifice. My beautiful Kala, he murmured, lustfully eyeing me. His gaze went up and he addressed his people. Today I present my Luna and beloved to my people. They cheered, and I wondered just how messed up in the head they were to cheer at the bullshit going on before them. This couldn't be normal. Luna? Couldn't they see what's right in front of them? I was a prisoner forced to the slaughter, and they thought it was all right. We all saw what happened 2 days ago. He continued, how we were brutally attacked on my birthday by a fiery dragon that claimed the lives of many and unfortunately wiped the memory of my beloved mate. Sighs of mourning and sorrow filled the air, but he continued, however, I have decided to mark her and journey through the process of getting her back in shape, hence the reason for today's meeting. He came down from the portal and my eyes widened. He was coming for me. His eyes smiled in victory. There was no stopping him now. He was going to take me, whether I liked it or not. He was going to mark me and forcefully dominate me, and there was nothing I could do about it. Cole reached me, flashing his canines. I have waited for this day for 3 years, my Kala, he said, and lowered his head to my bare neck. My eyes snapped shut as I anticipated the pain of his bite, his mark, and his brand that will forever be imprinted in my soul. Zadok. A picture of him fluttered into my mind, and I felt pain. I couldn't return to him. If Cole marked me, I would not be able to return to him. To my mate, it'll be over. I couldn't let him. I couldn't let him taint me. Over my dead body. Cole's fangs pierced into my neck, and I suddenly felt hot. I opened my eyes, and I met the panicked orbs of Cole. A lazy smirk found its way to my lips, and I felt hotter. What is she doing? I heard a voice from the crowd, but I didn't care. All I knew was that my body was hot, and Cole was getting darker as the seconds trickled by. His fangs were halfway through my throat, and he couldn't go further. He stared at me, shocked and unable to leave me. Save the Alpha! Athaliah roared, and the guards ran in place, fruitlessly trying to detach him from my flaming body. That's right, I was engulfed in flames and burning him alive. Incompetent fools! Athaliah roared, and before I could make out her next action, she picked up a log and hit me in the head. I fell, and Cole was relieved from my hold and rushed to the hospital. Take her away, lock her in the dungeons, and ensure she can't use her powers. Athaliah ordered, and it was followed to the T. I was picked up roughly from the floor and dragged out of the venue by two angry wolves, who threw me into a prison and shut the door. As soon as I got in there, I felt an odd oppressive feeling in my chest, hindering me from using my powers and weakening me simultaneously. It was a witch's nightmare, a cell designed with witch's bane. I fell to the ground, and my eyes blurred. Strength zapped out of me as the seconds trickled by. I didn't know how long I stayed there, breezing in and out of consciousness. Suddenly I felt pain, in all my joints and arteries. The pain was familiar, way too familiar to be forgotten. I bit back the pain and my eyes watered. I couldn't allow them to see me if it was what I suspected. I couldn't give them such privilege. I failed. As time proceeded, the pain increased, and I let out a howl of pain, begging to be let loose as my bones bent in odd places. I lay on the floor, begging for help, calling on anyone, someone who could make it stop, but no one came. For hours and hours I crawled around the cell, half transformed. It was torture, in its deadliest and guttural form. I shouted, roared, and howled as I went through the transformation in my cell. It didn't hurt so bad before. Why did it hurt so much? Was it because I had Zadok around? Was it because I had been tainted? I didn't know. All I knew was that it hurt, and I wanted Zadok. Scratch that. I needed him, so I did what I knew best. I called out to him from within and fell unconscious while fur covered my body, hoping and praying he'd hear and come to me.